There's a version of the empath that most people never see. Not the soft one, not the one who forgives too quickly, loves too deeply, and stays far longer than they should. There's another version, the one that emerges after the empath has been pushed past a threshold that no one believed existed. And when this version appears, the people who did the pushing don't recognize what they're looking at. They call it cruelty. They call it betrayal. They call it overreaction. But Carl Jung would call it something else entirely. He'd call it awakening. Jung spent his entire career studying the architecture of the human psyche. And one of his most radical observations was about people with extreme empathic sensitivity. He found that these individuals possess a psychological mechanism that most people never trigger, a breaking point that doesn't shatter the empath. It transforms them. But here's the part no one talks about. This transformation doesn't happen after the first wound. It doesn't happen after the 10th. It happens after the empath has exhausted every tool in their emotional inventory. After they've forgiven when forgiveness wasn't deserved. After they've extended compassion to people who returned it with contempt. After they've believed every promise, absorbed every apology, and excused every pattern one final time. The push too far isn't a single event. It's an accumulation. It's the moment when the empath's nervous system finally registers what their mind has been refusing to accept. That this person will never change. That this dynamic will never improve. That their love was never going to be enough to fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. Jung called this the activation of the shadow. Every empath carries within them a dormant capacity for ruthless self-preservation. Not cruelty, not revenge. Something far more devastating to the people who exploited them. Complete and permanent withdrawal. When the empath is pushed too far, they don't explode. They go quiet. And that quiet is the most dangerous sound the manipulator will ever hear. Because it means the empath has stopped fighting for the relationship. They've stopped hoping. They've stopped investing. And once an empath stops investing, there is no mechanism in the world that will make them start again. Jung observed this in his patients, and it fascinated him. The same person who spent years pouring emotional energy into a toxic dynamic could, once the threshold was crossed, disconnect with a completeness that bordered on surgical. No dramatic exit, no tearful confrontation, no long letter explaining all the ways they'd been hurt. Just silence. And then absence. This is what makes the push too far empath so disorienting to the people who pushed them. They were expecting the usual pattern. The pain, the tears, the eventual forgiveness, the return to normal. They had seen this cycle dozens of times. They had built their entire strategy around it. Hurt the empath, wait for the emotional reaction, offer just enough to pull them back in. Repeat. But when the empath crosses the final threshold, the cycle breaks. Permanently. The person who used to answer every call now lets it ring. The person who used to accept every excuse now doesn't even listen to them. The person who used to cry over the relationship now discusses it with the emotional intensity of someone reading a grocery list. And the people who pushed the empath too far experience something they never anticipated: the absence of the empath's energy. They had grown so accustomed to being emotionally sustained by the empath that they never considered what life would feel like without it. Now they know, and it's devastating. Not because the empath is punishing them, but because the empath has simply redirected their energy toward people and pursuits that actually deserve it. Jung would point out that what's happening here is a profound psychological correction. The empath isn't becoming someone new. They're becoming who they always were beneath the layers of people-pleasing, conflict avoidance, and emotional labor they performed to keep everyone comfortable. The pushed-too-far empath discovers something remarkable about themselves. They discover that their softness was never weakness. It was a choice. And now they're making a different choice. Not because they've lost their capacity for empathy, but because they've finally developed the one quality they were always missing: self-loyalty. This is what Jung meant when he talked about integrating the shadow. The empath's shadow isn't darkness or rage. It's the fierce, unapologetic refusal to abandon themselves for people who would abandon them without a second thought. It's the part of them that says, "I matter too," and actually believes it. What Jung found most significant was that this transformation is irreversible. You cannot push an empath past their final threshold and then charm your way back in. The door doesn't just close, it ceases to exist. The empath doesn't build a wall. They simply stop recognizing you as someone who has access to their inner world. You become a stranger with a familiar face, and no amount of apology, guilt, manipulation, or performative change will alter that. This is why Jung warned that the empath's tolerance should never be mistaken for an absence of limits. The empath's patience is vast, but it is not infinite. Their forgiveness is generous, but it has a floor. And when you've taken them past that floor, you don't get a warning. You get a withdrawal so complete that it feels like the empath has died and been replaced by someone you've never met. But here's what the people who pushed too far will never understand. The empath didn't change. They woke up. They finally stopped seeing you through the lens of who you could be and started seeing you through the lens of who you consistently chose to be. And when that clarity arrived, staying became impossible. If you're an empath who's reached this point, you already know what I'm describing. That strange calm that replaced the chaos. That absence of anger where there used to be a storm. That complete indifference towards someone who once occupied every corner of your mind. You're not heartless. You're recalibrated. You're not cruel. You're clear. You haven't lost the ability to love. You've lost the willingness to love people who hurt you and call it loyalty. Jung would tell you that this moment, the moment after you've been pushed too far, is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of the chapter where you finally stop being a character in someone else's narrative and start writing your own. You gave them your patience, they wasted it. You gave them your compassion, they weaponized it. You gave them your trust, they exploited it. And now you've given them the only thing you had left to give, your absence. And that absence isn't punishment. It's freedom, not theirs, yours. Welcome to the version of you that no one saw coming. The version that loves deeply but leaves completely. The version that forgives once but never forgets the lesson. The version that Jung would say was always there, waiting beneath the surface, waiting for you to stop abandoning yourself long enough to let it rise. You were pushed too far, and now watch this. Watch what happens when an empath finally chooses themselves. Watch what happens when the person who carried everyone else's pain decides to set it down. Watch what happens when the softest heart in the room becomes the strongest person in it. This is your awakening, and no one can push you back to sleep.